Welcome to Taking It to the Nub, episode 20 of season 1. Last week I was on vacation, spent a little time with the grandchildren, had a great time up in Tennessee, but I'm back. And I'm sitting down ready for a hurricane or a tropical storm, but that's okay because tonight we have someone I've known for quite a while, Mr. Noel Rojas from Rojas Cigars. I'm going to bring Noel in right now. Good evening, my friend. How are you?
Great. Really good to be here with you guys. Really happy to be here today.
So you're in Texas right now, right?
Yes, sir.
How's the weather down by you?
It's super hot here, man. It's right now. It is like probably 100, between 90 to 100.
Wow.
Hey, City, what is the temperature right now?
It's about 91 degrees outside.
91.
Oh, it's a cool night, 91. Very nice. So you had a little touch of some weather, maybe not in Dallas area, but Texas did a few weeks back. Now we're getting our tropical storm hurricane very early in the season. But hey, hunker down tomorrow and have a margarita party is what we're going to do here. What are you smoking tonight?
KSG, King of the Small Gauge.
I'm going to talk a little bit about that. I just reviewed the statement, as you saw, and I've got the KSG review coming out tomorrow. Since I smoked the Rojas cigars for reviews, I actually have one of your other apps that you worked on with another brand called the Ohana Pulse. So that's
correct.
Tonight. So the last time we spoke, it was at the Underground Cigar Lounge, NFG 19, I believe.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, the NFU is something really unique, per se. And I can gladly say that we're almost all the time the number one to sell out.
Yeah, absolutely. But prior to all of this, you go way back. So you're actually originally from Cuba.
Right.
How old were you when you came to the United States?
That's only 13 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah. And I first went to Miami, spent about 5 years in Miami. I was working for PepsiCo, especially for the Frito-Lay business of PepsiCo. I mean, PepsiCo is the owner of Frito-Lay, which is 50% of the profits actually PepsiCo made as a whole. And it's a company that I love to work with, man. I mean, a lot of chips. I didn't eat too many of them because you get bored at the end of the day. You're hungry, and I mean, you get so many Lays and Cheetos and everything. And I mean, at the end, I ended up just eating snacks, like seeds and things like that. But it was a great experience for me because I came from Cuba. And 6 months after I went to Miami, I started working for Frito-Lay. And it was, back in that time, it was a really good job. It is still. I was making about $65,000 a year for somebody that just came from Cuba with no background, with no sales background or anything like that. And I remember that, I took the route, and in 2 years, I was triple what the sales for that particular route were. And I really, in a certain way, I really miss because it was a great group of people, really good employees. Everybody was helping each other. That was a very shocking experience for me. Coming from communism, you don't know anything about anything, right? 6 months in this country, you don't know the system yet. You don't know how things work. And then I started working for an American company that works with American principles and everything. You know, for me, it was like the best thing ever, and at the same time, the most shocking thing ever, right? Because you know you're working under all these corporate guides, and they have everything nailed down to the millimeter.
Every touch of every
Everything.
piece of the process we know.
I mean, they will imagine this. They will spend a full day every month just to go through the system that you use to go to the stores, walking in the store, take the order, go to the truck, pick up the chips, put it on the dolly, go into the store, checking in, all of that, right? So what they were saying is basically if you lose just 5 minutes, which is nothing, 5, 10 minutes for every store, and you serve 10, 12 stores a day, you're wasting more than an hour that you're not getting paid for. So they were all about, because everything was commissioned, so they were all about making you faster, making you better, making you a machine to make money. You know, just go there, get the order, get out, pick it up from the truck, go stack all the product, and then, you know, they make studies on how the people walk in the inside of gas stations, convenience stores, and grocery stores. They make sure to know where to put the lays and the Cheetos and the Fritos and, you know, whatever they want to push.
So this is a big enlightening for you. How did you transition from chips to cigars?
Well, back in Cuba, I used to work on tobacco since I was a kid. When I went to Miami, I mean, on my weekends, when I was living in Miami on my weekends, I would go to different cigar stores, and I will ask, you know, hey, do you know how these cigars are made, or I mean, where are made, and how the business works, and how can I get in this? But nobody tell you anything. I mean, it's a very enclosed industry when it comes to the manufacturing side of it. And I couldn't get any information about anything. I mean, some people would just tell me about, you know, well, this is made in Nicaragua, this and that, but not real connections per se. And I was trying to get into it because that's what I did in Cuba before leaving. But I didn't know anything about anything. And then all of a sudden, I get a girlfriend that she was from Nicaragua, and has her mother was actually my mother-in-law was actually from Nicaragua, and she used to work on Oliva cigars. And
Oh,
that's how I made my first trip. Yeah, I made my first trip down there to Nicaragua. Start meeting people, start getting to know how the things down there work. And a year later, that's when I decided just to make my second immigration, which is leaving everything in the States and go to Nicaragua to live there, start opening my small
What
time.
year was that?
Then that's 13 years ago. So we are 2020.
2007?
No, 13 years ago I came from Cuba, sorry. So it's 7 years ago that I get into the cigars.
Okay, so 2013.
Yeah, 2013.
So you go to Nicaragua 2013, and you get involved with Oliva and others.
No, not Oliva. I mean, I learned about all the factories and things like that when I went in there. But when I left the States, Miami, and went to Nicaragua to leave, I could say the biggest open doors that I found related to getting good tobacco and start learning about Nicaraguan tobacco was actually with Casa Fernandez. Aganor Salif.
Okay.
I went there. I met. I met a lot of people. A. Fernandez, a lot of people, but I have this connection with somebody who passed away, which I consider my mentor in a certain way. It's Arsenio Ramos. I don't know if you heard about him. Arsenio Ramos was the master blender for Casa Fernandez. And he knew a lot of things about Nicaraguan tobacco, how to blend it, how to work with it. And when I went there, I had a meeting with Eduardo Fernandez, the owner of Casa Fernandez, a guy that I respect with my soul. I mean, that guy, what he has done not, I mean, just on the business side of it, he's a genius. I mean, he's a genius, and he's so humble, and that's the biggest thing that I like about him. Um, I met all the guys, all the Cuban guys that work for him down there in Nicaragua, and I remember that every Sunday we will get together a group of Cubans on Arsenio Ramos' house. Um, a lot of guys, Cuban guys that actually work for Eduardo Fernandez with Aganor Salif and the factory and all of that. We will all get together on Sundays. I remember even Gilberto Oliva, the elder, the founder, who passed away. He was also there every Sunday. There was another guy. His name is Pedro, and he's a baseball player. Uh, he used to be on the big leagues here in the States, and he's most of the time down there. He had a factory and a Brano cigar or something like that. But well, long story, short story, we will get together, just, a good group of Cuban guys, and I will always bring 3, 4, 5 different blends that I was making out of my own house back in that time when I first moved to Nicaragua, for Arsenio to taste the blends and let me know what he thinks about it. And he will just explain, this blend is not really well balanced because you use too much tobacco from Jalapa, for example, and then you have to change this and this and this. And that's, this feeling that you get on the upper part of your mouth is because you use this tobacco too much from this region. I mean, he will have everything figured out. And I learned so much from that guy, so much, and really, really grateful that I had the opportunity to spend time with him when I was down there in Nicaragua.
So you're working in the factories down there?
So back in that time, one sec. Amaro, el encendedor que yo tenía por aquí. So back in that time, I opened my own factory. First, we started making cigars in my house. And there is a couple of articles out there that talk about, my beginnings. And I remember one of my first customers was Jim Robinson from Leaf and Bean.
Oh, Jim, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, Jim can tell you, he was in my house and he saw the whole operation. I mean, we will use the rooms to age and storage tobacco, living room to make the cigars, and all of that thing just in my house. I was just living in one room and then using the whole house for that. And in less than 9 months, 10 months, I was able to put together a nice size factory next to the house. This was, a real factory. And probably that could be, if I think about a square footage, we'll probably have like 5,000 to 7,000 square foot.
Yeah, that's nice size. What was the name of that factory?
Well, I first opened it as Guayacan Cigars factory.
Okay.
But then I have some issues with my partners in that time, and then I went through one partnership to another and didn't really work out. My biggest issue all the time was being a small guy, and this is what hit the most to the smaller guys, the boutique guys down there when they have a factory. It's really difficult to find qualified personnel to run the factory that you can afford.
Mm-hmm.
People that are really know things about cigars and they are actually responsible on running the factory, they're not cheap. And most of the biggest companies, they just get those guys because they can pay for their salaries. So I was all myself, just by myself all the time. I mean, I couldn't really pay somebody the amount of money that these other companies were paying to get them there. And I can tell you, I lost probably $200,000 within the first 5 years. Just on bad cigars, tobacco that, they didn't take care of the tobacco, and tobacco went bad. And mostly I would say bad cigars, too tight that I couldn't sell. things
That's
like
a
that.
lot of money. I mean, that's a lot of money in the United States. That's like a huge amount of money down in Nicaragua too.
Yes.
How did you recover from that? I mean,
Well, I will tell you, this all happens, on the times that, like every time that I will come to the States to, open accounts and do events, things like that. All these will happen when I was not in the factory. Even though I have a person that I trust, never work out. I mean, this is, through the 5 years period. We have all these issues, these problems down there. And there was a time that I decided to close the factory. And I said, you know what? I can keep going with this because, to the size that I am, and I didn't have enough money to invest. I mean, I didn't have $1 million. I said, with the size that I have, I will have first to go and understand the market in the U.S., try to get as many accounts as I have. And then when it makes sense to open a factory, then I will come back and open a factory. Because making cigars is one thing. Selling it, that's another completely different thing. We could make as many cigars as we need, but I didn't have anybody to help me out to sell here in the States. I didn't have anybody to help me out. So I said, you know what, I'm going to close the factory. So I closed the factory. I moved some of my rollers to a friend that always helped me out in there in Nicaragua when I was there. He knows a lot about tobacco and a lot about cigars. And then I moved up here. This is about 2.5 years ago, 3 years ago. And I can tell you that I was.
This is you moved to Texas now.
Yes, I moved. Yeah.
So you went from Miami to Nicaragua. From Nicaragua, you moved to Texas.
Exactly.
Worth, Richardson area, somewhere like that.
Exactly.
Okay.
I came to the Richardson area. I can tell you, with all the debts and the bad partnership, I always said, I make good partnership with bad people and bad partnership with good people. Thing is, none of them did work. And when I closed my last partnership, I can tell you that I was in debt. I absorbed more than $40,000 in debt just to get that done, and I let more than $40,000 on accounts to get money. So I left a lot of money for the factory to keep working. So I closed the factory. I mean, I just left them with the factory. Came here to the States, and I pay all my debts. This is the thing. When you are learning, especially about business, I knew tobacco. I knew how to make cigars. I work in Cuba. That's one thing. But when it comes to business, I never knew anything about anything on business when I came from Cuba, because it's a communist system. There's no private business. There's no private enterprise. There's nothing that teaches you about business, in a sense. So you kind of learn just making mistakes, and I make a lot of mistakes. I can tell you that. I could probably haven't made enough of them yet, but I make a lot of mistakes.
You learn by them. Actually, Chris Coltis says, "Hustle every day, never give up." KSG.
Boom.
So you make mistakes. You learn by your mistakes. This is the American way, right? You keep pushing. You keep doing something new. You reinvented yourself.
Exactly. Well, I tell you, I'm really glad. I'm sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
But you reinvented yourself a few times, and you made alliances with some other small brands that I believe helped you along the way, right? Can you talk about some of the other brands that you worked with and have been producing cigars for over time?
Yes, definitely. So, you know what is the good thing about, beside all the mistakes that I make in the past, business side of it, I always had people who really, really believe in what I was making, what I was doing, the product that we were putting out. One of those examples is Ezra Zion. So back in that time, I make all my exes live in Texas for them. Was the #1 selling cigar.
You made that.
Best seller, yeah. That was the best seller they ever had. Back in that time with Fred Riwick, Nomad Cigar, he made a limited edition lot 1386 or 1836, something like that.
1386, man, awesome cigar.
He said that was the best rated best seller he always had. I made cigars for Ohana, Ryan, the one smoking there.
Oh,
He had a good success. There was some, some other cigars that I made. I'd rather not mention that some guys, they just it didn't end up the way that I wanted to, and on the business side of it, it didn't make sense to keep working with these guys. But the guys that I made it, they really, really succeed with the lines that they had, and uh, there's a brand, for example, that I'm making cigars for now. It's called Stolen Throne.
oh man, crooked across. That's
And I can tell you, I never seen anybody selling that many cigars in such a short time.
they just blew up.
Yeah.
They literally came out. They hit the market. They did the right thing. They got them out to people like me and others. We started talking about them, and when something is that good, and guys like me start talking about it, things just explode. People are like, wow, I got to get my hands on this, and everybody was talking about that cigar, and
Yeah, I can tell you that me personally, I have opened probably about 10 accounts just because they are smoking the Stolen Throne and they make a research, say who's making this cigar, and they said, hey, no, we want to taste whatever you're making because we can keep these cigars on the shelf. You know what I mean? And that's how I have been able to actually open some accounts just because of that.
so the process. Let's talk a little bit about the Stolen Throne briefly. So I really like that cigar. I know many people do. What was the process behind that? Did they have a blend in mind, or did they put that in your hands? Did you work together? How did you come together on that blend to make it? And it was just great. So talk a little bit about the cigar and how you guys came.
Sure. So when I work with a company like that or somebody that really I see that have their heart on what they want to do, I don't just give them blends and say, okay, this is what I have. I'd rather sit with them and say, okay, let's do this. What do you want? Well, I want a cigar like this, 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 and this. And then I go over all the tobaccos that I have. I make little cigars, give it to them, they smoke it. I say, okay, out of those cigars that you have tried, everything that you smoke, tell me what is the percentage you want. What is the percentage you want from Jalapa? 30%? What percentage you want from Esteli? 20%? 1%? And then when they complete the 100%, we made the blend. And then we start building from there. Okay, well, it's too spicy. Let's go down on the Jalapa. On the Esteli. It's too mild. Let's go up with some more strength. I want more creaminess. Let's put some auto tobacco in there. And then, we build it from there. That's the way that I usually do it.
Now, are the owners or the brand owners as familiar with the profiles of each leaf as you are, or are they more, okay, I'm not getting enough sweetness or enough of this, enough nut or enough earth?
They don't really know until I sit with them and make these little cigars of every independent regions and they try it out.
Right, so you're doing little fumas with them.
That's how they actually get to know the tobaccos they're playing with. It's difficult. It's not as easy like okay, just make me a blend and what it has in there. I want people to go to the process when I do something like that, which I'm not doing anymore. But I like to do it with guys that goes through the process, because when they're talking to the consumers, when they're selling the cigar, they can tell with experience what they did, what they want to accomplish, how they did it. It's not like, okay, well, yes, this is my cigar, and it's made with tobacco from Nicaragua, this and that. It's not just that. It's not just plain. When they talk about it and they were part of the process, they really feel like they really feel they were part of the process. So, I mean, I'm all about energy, and that energy they projected to whoever they are explaining to what is the process they went through.
All right. So then in the future now, any new work you do with them, they're that much more educated. You would probably have a much better collaboration. Say, okay, you know what? Let's get back because now I want this, this, and this, and let's start working on that. And they hands-on blending with you.
Exactly. Now it's easier going forward because they already know, which tobacco give you what, and unless we're trying some new tobaccos, they have to taste it and all of that. But it does make a difference when you go through the process with them.
So where is your factory now? Because I know you've gone around, so got a lot of factories.
So we have a small factory here in Richardson, Texas.
Okay.
We made between 350 to 700 cigars a day. So it's not a huge production. I mean, mostly we have a lot of stores that buy what I call custom blends, like a house blend for the store, but this is premium type of cigar. But most of my cigars are actually made in Nicaragua. And this is made in a factory that is called Flor de San Luis. And it's my friend, Carlos. He knows so much. He's kind of related to the Robinas family in Cuba. And he has been growing tobacco since he was a kid too. So he knows a lot about tobacco and a lot about cigars. And it's been a process to get into the small gauges with him, but we have make it work for the brand. On the other hand, I'm looking forward to open a new factory in Nicaragua. I just going through the process. I don't want to make the mistakes that I made the last time.
Right.
I actually learned a lot about being here in the States. And for the first time, I mean, I was in Nicaragua 5 years making cigars, but I never knew anything about anything on this side of the business. So for the first time, I spent about 2 years just sitting in a store locally here in Texas, rolling cigars, which was the number one selling cigar in the store. They sell more than $80,000 worth of cigars every year just of the things that I made. I literally roll cigars for a living. I mean, it's not like I just a brand owner. So I was there rolling cigars for about 2 years, and I learned a lot about the consumer side of it. So for me, it's all about communication. You can have the best product or service, but if you don't have a clear message to the consumer, he will just be confused. And that was what was happening with the brands that I have from the past. It was too confusing. So when you get confused, you just walk away from the confusion. So I learned a lot, and I'm glad that I make so many mistakes because now I know things that people that haven't made these mistakes will make those mistakes because they don't know. You know what I mean? So I'm going to open a new factory in Nicaragua, that's for sure. It's going to be a complete different system that everybody's using. Still, handmade cigars and all of that. But I have come out with a system that is going to be, I can literally, physically show you why we're making better cigars than anybody else just because of the system I'm going to imply. And this is something that hasn't been done anywhere. And what I'm trying to do is, because I know how to make cigars, I'm cutting the margin of error to the knot. There's going to be almost no margin of error. And we're going to make, there's a difference between good cigars and super great cigars. A good cigar for me is, a cigar that delivers flavor, have a good draw, burns well. It's a good cigar. It's not bad. It burns well, you have flavor, you have a good draw. It looks good. That's one thing. But there is the great cigar. It's the one that as soon as you light it up, the flavor just fill out your mouth, coat your mouth on the inside, and the construction side of it is the cigar that hold the ash 2 inches, 3 inches, that made the cone when you're smoking it. And you have to be a specialist to get this done on a certain scale. And I have a system that I'm going to put in place on this new factory that's going to allow me to make that cigar over and over and over again.
Now you're going to have to teach, you're going to have to bring in some special.
Exactly. What I will do is just teach from scratch because what happened in Nicaragua, especially in Esteli, where all the factories are, is that there is a lot of rollers, but they're okay. They're not, and when you learn to do something in a certain way, that's the best way for you to do that things. And even if I ask these rollers to make the cigars the way that I want them to make it, they always go back to their first training, the way that they made it. Now, if I teach them from scratch my way, that's going to be the easiest way for them to do it. And I have proven this concept because I have taught two ladies already to make cigars. The only way they know how to make those cigars is the way that I teach them. And when you see a 42 gauge, which is very thin cigar, this is a 38. 42 is not too bigger than that. When you see a 42 gauge with a 2-inch large ash, and when the ash goes down, you see a cone that is probably a quarter of an inch on the cigar. That means whoever made that cigar was badass. So that's the point I'm going to get. So I'm going to teach people from scratch. And before doing that, I already have a plan that I'm going to be doing consistently. It's going to take me at least 2 years. But even before opening any factory, I'm just going to buy tobacco, grow tobacco, and age tobacco. That's the only thing that I'm going to do. I got all my family from Cuba. They finally decided, said, you know what? Cuba is really bad right now with everything that is going on. The government is just making it worse every single day. So for the first time, I have the full backup of all the Rojas family. They said, you know what? We're going to Nicaragua, and we're going to learn everything you know about tobacco and cigars, and we're going to work for you, and we're going to make it happen. This is going to take 1 full year of training for all the Rojas family. 1 full year of training before getting started with teaching people. But I'm planning in about 2 years, be able to at least have 10 apprentices learning how to make cigars in the factory with a full backup of tobacco that we can use 2, 3, 5 years aged tobacco. That's the plan. It's going to take 2 or 3 years to get there.
So what is going to be your preferred bunching method?
It all depends. The tobacco. The tobacco is the one who determines what are you going to use. Sometimes it's entubado, sometimes it's estrujado, My preferred method is entubado, but not the regular entubado you see in the factories. Entubado to the size of this cigar. And I have a certain way to make it, which, I don't want to put it out.
Right.
But it's going to guarantee that every cigar that we make is going to be freaking perfect. You will see it by itself. And I never argue about quality because everybody says they made the best cigars. Everybody. Not your cigars, Whoever made cars or shoes or, everybody says they have the best.
It's their baby. It's the best in the world. Right.
That's not my approach. My approach is I know we could make the best cigars when I open this factory. We're making some of the most difficult cigars to make, which is the smaller gauges. That's why nobody wants to do it. It's the most flavorful cigar. The small gauge cigars, don't get fooled.
And I wanted to get into that. So let's break that down a little bit. So you moved now from a world of a lot of different cigars you were doing, and now you have kind of coined yourself as the king of small gauge. Your new cigars are these smaller gauge ring gauges. So that takes, and like you said, that takes a very special talent to build those cigars. So what put your mind on that?
Okay. I could tell you, if you ask any cigar manufacturer, right? You make a cigar, fill it in a binder, you taste it, you put a wrapper on it, you put a Mexican San Andres wrapper. That's one blend. You put a Connecticut wrapper, it's a whole different blend. You put a Habano wrapper, it's a whole different blend. My point is 80% of the flavor, and this is my opinion, up to 80% of the flavor comes from the wrapper. I have a smoke, and if we ever sit again together, I can give you a cigar filler and binder and just a little cigar made with the wrapper. You can smoke each one, and you can see that, the meat is really in the wrapper. Now, if you think about it, you're telling me all the flavor, most of the flavor, up to 80% of the flavor is coming from the wrapper. Bigger ring gauges compared to smaller gauges on the ratio filler versus wrapper. You got more flavor of the wrapper on a smaller gauge cigar because this is, the ratio is bigger on the wrapper than the filler versus a 70 gauge or a 54 or a 56 cigar that is bigger. You always use the same amount of wrapper, which is, one leaf. What happened is every cigar has 3 turns. If you look at it, it doesn't matter whether it's, a 70 gauge or a Lancero, they have 3 turns. So the cigar turns 3 times when you're rolling into the leaf. On bigger gauges, what I call the overlap, the amount of tobacco of the wrapper that rests on the under wrapper, the bigger gauges, you get an overlap that is like this. When you get a small gauge, you still get 3 turns, but it's a bigger overlap. So you're getting more wrapper. So if I tell you most of the flavor is coming from the wrapper, on a smaller gauge cigar that is like this, you will be able to taste more of that of that wrapper than on a bigger gauge cigar because, the ratio, right? Now, if you think about it, the biggest expense to make a cigar is the materials. That represents 85 to 90% of the cost. El Lancero, 7x38 or 7.5x38, you're looking at 11, 12 grams. A 7x70, you're looking at 24, 25. I mean, a 6x60 is 22. I have to actually scale here with all the weight of the different cigars. But just like a regular Gordo will weigh almost twice than a Lancero. Now, why would that make one cigar that cost me, for example, 80% of the cost on tobacco, when I can make with the same amount of tobacco 2 cigars? I mean, cost-wise, it would make more sense to make 2 smaller cigars than 1 big cigar. Now, the trends on the market and all of that goes to the bigger gauges and, everything that has gone up to it. But the real thing is, nobody wants to make a smaller gauge cigar because it's the most difficult cigar to make. A regular roller can make 350, 400 cigars a day with any cigar over 50 gauge. When they're making Lanceros, they can only make 250 cigars a day.
Wow.
So you see the difference. Now, the other thing is, I make a big fat cigar with tobacco that is under fermented. I put it on the center. It doesn't matter. It's a big mass. It's burning all at the same time. If that tobacco doesn't burn to the same speed that the other tobaccos, the big mass of heat is going to make that cigar burn all the way through. With the smaller gauges, it's not the case. If the tobacco doesn't burn right, it's not going to burn right. Because the small gauge, it just makes this quantity of heat that if the tobacco doesn't burn right, it's just going to be there lighting up all the time. The other thing is, I can make a 60 gauge cigar or a 54 gauge cigar with 2 grams over the weight. It's not a problem. It's the same size with more tobacco inside compacted. Still, it's going to give me draw. It's not the same with smaller gauge cigars. You can only go 0.5 grams up and down. Otherwise, if you go under 0.5 grams, you're going to have a cigar that is tunneling. If you go over, it's going to be tight. It's going to be too tight. So this is the point. Not all the rollers can do it. It's the most difficult cigar to make. It's a headache to make. When we start making smaller gauge cigars in the factory with my friend Carlos, 50% of the roller quit because they couldn't make it. And we were just taking out their production. But the real thing is, if you really want a flavorful cigar, you smoke a small gauge cigar. Why? Because you're getting more flavor from the wrapper, which is the biggest percentage of the flavor. And the other thing is, when we make a smaller gauge cigar, we only use visos and ligeros. We might use 1 leaf of seco, but it's not like a big gauge cigars that, is all full of seco just to make it right on the cost. These cigars are visos and ligeros. You get the meat, you get the flavor. You know what I mean? So it's believe me, it's been a journey to be able to make it. And it's not all the rollers that can make it, but everything we make on that smaller gauges is just super good. Delivers flavor, like the KSD, for example. I mean, we sold those cigars without making a single dollar on advertising. All the limited edition that I make in a month. We sold all of them. So when we teach the new rollers, we're going to teach them based on how to roll the smaller gauge cigars. That's what I said. Once they know how to make a smaller gauge cigars, they can roll anything.
Right.
Anything they can roll. And what I'm trying to do with this smaller gauge type of thing cigar, in my opinion, and this is just my opinion, most of the cigars on the market are mostly mass made, putting aside the boutique cigars. But in general sense, they're all cigars for all people. You know what I mean? There's not one brand that I saw that was catering for the cigar specialist, what I call the cigar specialist, not the cigar connoisseur. The cigar connoisseur is somebody who just know about cigars. Talking about the cigar specialist, what we call the nerds, right? The guy who, he read reviews about all the cigars. He wants to know what tobacco was used, this and that. That guy doesn't smoke anything over 52 gauge. I mean, you rarely see him smoking 54, 56, 60s. That guy, what he usually smokes, and I have seen it in the stores, is Coronas, because that's what
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? So there is not a brand that caters to this particular consumer. And I said, you know what? The Rojas brand is going to be that. The Rojas brand is going to be the cigar that is, number one, is going to educate the consumers. And I have a super cool product that is going to come out very soon. It's called How to Become a Cigar Specialist. I will tell you more about it. And it's mostly going to be education. And we're going to make the cigar for the cigar specialist. That's a brand that if you know cigars, that's what you smoke. And just because most of the people who really knows, they smoke between 38 all the way to 52 gauge or 50 gauge. 52 might be the biggest they go, at least the people that I have known. Maybe some people in other places, they are different. But the people that I have known, and I know a lot of people, they're all about smaller gauges because they know they can get more flavor out of the cigar. And that's the kind of consumer we want to cater. In every product or service, whether, Bates or every product out there, there's always one brand that caters to a specific type of consumer that is very, very sophisticated. He wants something that is very unique and very different from everything else. And that's what I'm trying to do with the Rojas brand. This is a brand for the cigar specialists. As I always said, if you want to show who is the boss, you smoke a big JFR or a big Asada. If you want to smoke a light cigar, you smoke a Macanudo. If you want to smoke a short cigar, you smoke a Nub. But if you want to smoke a flavorful cigar, you smoke a Rojas cigar. Because it's a small gauge which delivers a lot of flavor.
Do you need to run?
I do, but I can call you again. I can connect again with my phone from the car.
All right, why don't you do that? I'll move the show, what we usually do near the end. I'll move into what's new on Stogie Press in the meantime while you get yourself settled. And I'll keep the show rolling, just reconnect back in, and we'll bring you in on the back end of this. And we'll talk a little more about your connection to the Underground Cigar Lounge and what they've done for you, and also some things that possibly we can raffle off next week. Let's talk about news. So the news that has come out this week. This article here, I found got a little bit of traction more than I expected, and I got some interesting responses from some people, some texts. So, as you know, September 9th is the date that the FDA has set for predicate substantial equivalence applications to be put in. And what does that really mean? So there was a lot of different articles in the news media about this. And what I did is I went on to the FDA website. And on the FDA website itself, there is a lot of information in the tobacco area. One of the things they have there are all the orders that they've put out for those that have submitted substantial equivalence applications. They're mostly cigarettes, roll your own, and I believe it might have been Swisher Sweets or something might have been on there. But basically, there was a report that came out that there was a letter that some manufacturers received, and this is words I said that a brand owner never wants to hear. We completed our review of the substantial equivalence report submitted under section blah blah of the FDA Act and determined that the new tobacco product is not substantially equivalent to the predicate tobaccos listed in Appendix A. You never want to get that letter. That's a bad letter. And it goes on to explain what goes on and what they were looking at. They rejected this, and as a result of that, they also tell them that they have to pull this product off the shelf. Now, that is a terrible thing to happen. As you can see, here's some of them that they talked about: Camel Sticks Mint, Viceroy Flex, Skoal Smooth Mint Tobacco Sticks, Union Full Flavor 100. So these are the ones that they rejected. Now, there is no cigars listed on this site yet, and September 9th is coming up very quickly. So I was just basically asking the manufacturers and brand owners out there, and I've talked to a few, have you submitted your paperwork? And the answers have been yes. The lawyers are on top of it. So there must be an awful lot of applications that have been put in, and we're waiting to see what comes back on that. So I did get some responses. Some people said that some of the shops were concerned. Should they get, how do they know what to keep, what not to keep? The most important thing is to stay on top of this, work with your brand owners, whatever brands you have in, keep a dialogue with them, and ensure that the predicate applications get approved, or if they're approved, that they know about it. And if they're not, you need to know what to do with the brand owner. So this article kind of talks all through that. The second bit of news that came out, well, right now, as I speak, they're having our friends at Protocol Cigars, Juan Consul, is having his pool party this year. They came out with a pool party cigar. They're having this pool party down in New Jersey. So I'm sure there's probably some posts that you're going to start seeing. It's happening as we speak. So they came out with this special cigar just for the pool party. So all the attendees are getting this Corona Gorda. Okay. It's not for sale. You're only going to get it if you go to the pool party. So look for a Facebook post today coming back. If it's anything like last year when they had an impromptu pool party, there was a lot of fun stuff that was happening at that event. Tobacco Plus Expo came out with their 2021 update. So as you know, the PCA had been canceled. The Premium Cigar Association trade show was canceled this July. The next big one that happens is TPE. There is going to be a kind of a virtual Intertobac convention over in Europe, but we'll get into that in a moment. But TPE announced that they are planning to have this event scheduled for January 27th to 29th. They are planning to have this as they've done before. I've talked to numerous brand owners that actually last year they were kind of set up in various kiosks at a footprint, and now a lot of them have actually gone to the next level and gotten booths. So this is really the big show that everybody in the industry is chomping at the bit to get together as a group, as an industry, to have the experience that we love so much. We'll see what happens. If they, hopefully maybe we get a vaccine coming out and this virus issue we have goes away. If not, we'll keep an eye on how this moves forward. They are doing something. They are providing a refund policy. So if a brand owner does get a booth and that booth is secured, and they do cancel the show, there will be a full refund. So that's a little different than what the PCA did this year. The PCA actually credited you for the 2021 show, from what I understand. Plus, they've lowered some of their costs. So they're trying to make it very easy to attend TPE, and TPE begins in January, end of January next year. Fratello announced that they've moved into the Brazilian market. So they've continued to expand their footprint. They're one of the ones that a few years back started to hit heavily in the European markets, and now they have expanded down into Brazil. So continuing to grow their footprint. J.C. Newman announced a new cigar this year. So we are starting to see some new cigars hit the market. J.C. Newman introduced what's called the Yagua. It's created from what they call from the 1940s Cuba. This is an interesting blend. They actually put it in this special rolling that they use. There's only 1,000 boxes that they're producing, and what they're saying is that the cigar is approximately 6x54. And what they mean is because the cigars are pressed and bound while they're still wet, each one has a slightly different shape, and each cigar is truly unique. So look for these. They should be hitting the shelves in early August. So here we are in August, so you can expect to see these showing up soon. I'm looking forward to getting my hands on some of these. And Espinosa has hired a new territorial manager. They brought in a young man, some Tyler Jones. So Tyler Jones is a young man who served in the Air Force, and he's been smoking cigars for a while, and he'll be representing Espinosa in Western Ohio, Michigan, Illinois, Indiana, and Wisconsin. So welcome to the Espinosa brand, Tyler. Tyler's 23 years old and a native of Ohio. So that was the news for the week. Some of the cigar reviews that we did this past week. We'll start over here. Yesterday, I put out the review of the second Mafu from DBL Cigars. DBL, Dominican Big League, owned by Francisco Almonte. A lot of my followers, you all know DBL. So the Mafu came out a few years back. This one has actually been sitting in my humidor for well over a year and a half. I did I smoked the original. There was two blends that they had in this, and the first one was Cameroon. So I reviewed that a year and a half ago, and I had this other one sitting around. This is a huge cigar. This is a 8x60 cigar. But I went, and it's named after this fine man in Santiago. His name is Mafu, and I've met Mafu on a trip down to the Dominican. He's this fun old Dominican guy, and what he would do is he would come over. He want to clean the factory and keep things all spotless, and he just wanted cigars. So they took care of Mafu, and they made a cigar named after him. So this is a very nice cigar. Now, the original, the Cameroon, got a much higher rating. This one got a lower rating, primarily because of the burn issues. It started getting a flaky ash and had some off-burn issues that was going on with it. Needed some touch-ups. So that's primarily what was causing the lower numbers. The flavor on this, though, was extremely complex. Had a tremendous amount of flavor notes and complexity. And this is one of these 2-hour, 40-minute smokes, maybe 3 hours if you're smoking it even slower than I did. But you would enjoy this cigar for sure if you just want to sit down, watch a ball game, and spend 3 hours watching a baseball game and smoking a cigar. We also reviewed the Rojas statement. So I had these for a few months, so I reviewed they were ready to be reviewed. This one we rated a 94. This is a fabulous cigar. I already seen some texts coming in on the feed here that everybody's saying they really like the statement. This is a cigar that, this was the Corona size of it. So this is one of the small ring gauges that Noel was talking about. This is a $10 cigar, and it just had this solid core of fruit and spice and toffee notes coming in. Carried a very nice ash between the falls. Some Mexican San Andreas with a Nicaragua binder and filler. Comes in 4 different vitolas, ranging from $650 to $999. So you can just see this. It's got this nice closed foot, this beautiful kind of red clay kind of looking wrapper. So just very nice cigar. Okay. And if you're looking where you can get these, if you can't find them anywhere near you, you can always go to the Underground Cigar Lounge, which is a big Rojas house. They carry all their lines. We also took a look at the Tatawahi Anarchy Chaos. Now, this is a cigar that I received when I went to the Great Smoke and down at Smoke Inn. This is part of what they call a micro series blend. This is the 4th time that Tatawahi created a micro series blend. There are 16 total micro series blends over 10 years. This one came in. They came in this sampler pack. There were 2 Chaos and 1 other cigar that they offered in there, which I believe was called Naked Horse or something like that. I forget the name of what they called it, but this is just a very powerful cigar. You look at the construction on this nice early wrapper, and they use what's the 109 cap, which is that kind of rounded off cap at the top. And this is kind of an old Cuban style cap. But what they did is they put this coil of tobacco on the top of the cap. So basically I sliced it right about here and went on the journey. So you can see there, beautiful right down to the nub. So very fabulous cigar. We also took a look at the Monte Cristo Ciudad de Musica, which is City of Music. This was a collaboration between General Monte Cristo and Crown Heads. Problem with this cigar was really the burn and what was going on with it. Really had some issues. Started off with an off burn, needed multiple touch-ups going through this. I just kept having to put the lighter to it, which is something that I don't particularly like. What I did notice is when I did take the band off, what's interesting with this is there's this piece of vellum inside of it. So the vellum wraps the outside of it, and then they put the band around the outside of that. Not quite sure why they do that. I guess I need to reach out to somebody in general to explain that to me, but our Altadis, I'm sorry, Altadis about that. So find out what the purpose of that was. But there was just a lot of things that was going on with this. Flavor-wise, it was decent, but it just had all kinds of burn issues, and something I don't particularly like. Noel, let me bring Noel back in. Noel's in his car. There he is. Okay, so we just gave a recap for some people that didn't catch the beginning of the show, so I brought us right back to where we are now. So let me check your audio. Can you hear us?
Yeah, I hear you well.
Good. So we were talking earlier, you now have gone into this mode of doing these small ring gauges, and you've got 3 new blends that you've came out with. Can you talk a little bit about those?
Sure. So the first blend that I came out with, it's called the Statement, and the Statement is basically a statement of what I really like. It's a Mexican San Andres wrapper. It's Nicaraguan fillers. There is a particular filler from Nicaragua, a region that is called Somoto, where my friend is growing tobacco. It's a brand new region of Nicaragua, and the tobacco is very unique. This particular blend is more like a medium to full body cigar. That's the first release that I made. We have Toros, Lanceros, Robustos, and Coronas on that particular size, on that particular blend. Then the second blend that I made was is called the Blue Bonnet, and the Blue Bonnet is 100% Corojo. It's Corojo wrapper from Ecuador, Corojo binder from Nicaragua, and Corojo fillers, including Corojo fillers from Aganorsa leaf. They have some really good Corojo from Nicaragua that we use in this particular cigar. The other blend that I came out with is it's just a limited edition. It's called the KSG, which you're familiar with. That one is 5 years age, Ecuadorian Habano Maduro wrapper. And it's actually tobacco from the first harvest of the Somoto Valley. Within the first harvest, we saved a couple of bales just to make limited edition productions. This was one of the first ones.
So when you created the second blend with all Corojo, is that one of your favorite leaves to work with?
I wouldn't say it's my favorite leaf because I have so many favorite leaves. Per se, I love every of the tobaccos that we use. They're just different on their own way, per se. But it's just the variety of that tobacco we're using from Somoto, that valley that my friend grows tobacco. It just blends really well with the Corojo that we're buying from Aganorsa in Casa Fernandez. I really like Corojo because it's very smooth. It has a lot of sweetness. It does smooth out the blends a lot when you blend it with Nicaraguan tobacco. It's a very unique tobacco.
You mentioned, and actually you had posted a picture, I think it was last year, on your Facebook with you and your friend Louis holding up the leaf from Somoto, and you were making a statement about Somoto. So Somoto's that's a new region? Is that a special region? Is it small crops? What is Somoto all about?
So Somoto Valley, it's a valley. So in Nicaragua, you have Esteli, and then if you keep going, like you go to Honduras, you have Condega, and then you keep going to the border with Honduras and go up in the mountains, and that's where Jalapa is. Now, instead of going up in the mountains, you just keep going straight to the border with Honduras. There is a valley there that is called Somoto. There's a little town called Somoto. And what happened is the soil there is really sandy. It's not as clay as Esteli or Condega. The only problem is that there is not too much water. So my friend spent about $20,000 just making holes trying to find water after he fell in love with the soil. He saw the soil to be so sandy. He said that it reminds him the soils of San Juan de Martinez and San Luis and Pinar del Rio. I haven't found such a sandy soil in Nicaragua, like that particular soil there. So that's when he decided to start growing tobacco there. And I can tell you right now, he could sell every single tobacco leaf he grows there. Everybody's just dying for that tobacco. Everybody wanted. I make certain products for underground cigars, and we have been making several batches. Like every month they put out a batch of cigars that I made for them, and they just name it, with whatever name they want. And over the years, we have been doing this for about 2 years or 3 years. But over the years, the blend that has been more well accepted and people always ask for that cigar is the blend that was 100% tobacco from Sumatra.
Hmm.
That was amazing. It's the, you know, they call it the chop beach.
So,
Yeah.
so how would you
It- it-
compare that soil to soil, say, here in Florida, where Florida Sun-Grown grows their tobacco?
I mean, to be honest, I haven't really seen the soil in Florida for tobacco growing. But what I can tell you is it's very similar to the soil in Cuba. And it's just, you know, when the soil is so sandy, you know, it allows the tobacco plant and the roots to actually breathe more and be able to expand more and get some more nutrients out of the soil. You know, it's just a very unique place. When you smoke that, plus, I mean, he knows how to ferment tobacco and grow tobacco and all of that, but just the soil make a big difference. The sad part of it is that because there's not too much water there, we cannot really expand too much on tobacco growing in that particular region.
Right. So Robert Mayorga just noted, and we'll get into this next. Yes, the shop bitch.
Mm.
So you are a huge fan of, and they are a huge fan of you, the Underground Cigar Lounge. One of my favorite places in this country is the Underground Cigar Lounge. Have you been to their new place yet? They have seen the progress?
I haven't. I only seen pictures. To be honest, I haven't really been inside of the humidor. I'm really excited for them because they really deserve to go to the next step, and it really make them different, man. What they do, what they stand for, the whole boutique concept, and everything they do there is really unique. That's, you know, that's why there's so many people in love with, you know, what the UG makes.
Now, how did you connect up with the UG team? Did they find you or did you find them?
We met. I think we met at one trade show. I can't really remember, but I think we met at a one trade show. They started bringing in my cigars. The very first big event that I ever had with UG. And what's really amazing back in that time, I mean, back in that time I was making cigars for around a year, and we made the first event with them. Even without starting the event, Don sold 37 boxes of people just calling to get the cigars without even starting the event, right? I mean, this was amazing. And that was, you know, surprisingly good for me. And I mean, he can sell 1,500 cigars in 2 hours. I mean, just like that. It's amazing what they do there.
It is. He's got it. He's got it wired. I mean, you know, you get on his mailing list. I know he sends out these great mailing posts about what he's just got in, and if you don't jump on that, you're gone. He gets some really craft cigars coming in. He gets some real boutique. He is truly a boutique house at its finest. Funky place. I mean, I recently ordered from him. Funny story for the viewers here, and you know this, Noel. So he posted out something a few weeks ago about he got the city of Fort Worth, Texas, cited him for having too much barbed wire around his parking area around the shop. So if you go to UG, there is like barbed wire and razor wire running all around the parking area and all around his property, all right, where the shop is. And that's because before then, I think it was like a holding lot for cars or something. But He left it like that. When they cited him because he had too much barbed wire, so they said you can only have 2 strands and not 3 strands or something. So what he did, he used that. This is the genius of Don Wiggins. He had them take out 1 strand of barbed wire and he cut it into little 6-inch pieces. And then he had a special deal where he was selling the El Chapos, okay? The El Chapo cigars, and you got one of the 6-inch pieces of barbed wire with it. So I got that cigar, I got the 6-inch piece, and I'm going to be building a little plaque hanging on the wall here, UG emblem on it. Say a little piece of the UG. And then when he also went and created the new shop, he did this whole promotion where, you know, fans of the UG could buy a brick for the shop. And I don't know where that brick goes, if it's inside or outside, but I bought a brick and you got a little package of another brick in the wall from, I guess, Ezra Zion, right? And there was these 5 cigars. So he has all these cool ways of promoting business and promoting brands. And I just love what he does and how he operates.
Yeah, it's really cool.
For a small shop. So I'm looking forward to. So I didn't get to go to the NFG this year. I guess with everything going on. But you've been popular at the NFG. For those that don't know, every year the shop runs what's called an NFG event, which stands for No Fucks Given. And they have a great time. It's a huge amount of people show up. And a couple of years ago, you did something special. You one of the prizes that was offered was a rolling blending event with you?
Yes.
So talk about how it works. How did that all come?
Well, it was actually the winner was a guy from outside of the state, and he actually traded for another prize that somebody wins. And I ended up making a custom blend for actually a good friend of mine, Adam Weldon. Yeah, it came out really good. I mean, I love, the one thing that I do love is be able to teach people or share with consumers the beauty of tobacco. And when I can sit with someone and let him know, and I will say that I will feed out of the emotions that came out from their mouths or their faces when they try different tobacco from different regions without being blended. It's something that really made me feel well about it, because I know people appreciate more cigars when they really know everything that goes into it.
That's right, and that was good. And when you're down in Nicaragua and you meet these other immigrants from Cuba, have you ever met anybody that you grew up with?
No, not really. Not really.
Really, that's amazing. Because you came from a rather large tobacco growing area, right? The raw area, right?
Yes. There's a lot of tobacco growing there, but I mean, if you think about it, there's not too many people from Pinar del Rio in Nicaragua. I mean, there's a lot of people. I mean, but it's not really a lot. It's not like 300 people or something like that. I mean, it's a few guys. Like my father's cigars, they're not from Pinar del Rio. They are from, I think it's Villa Clara or Santa Clara, something like that. The few guys that are from Pinar del Rio that I met there, we do know people in common from Cuba, but it's not like, they were from my hometown. I mean, my town where I was born, it's a very little town, about 10,000 people only. And the only guy that was there from Nicaragua was me.
Have you
from Cuba.
Have you ever been back to Cuba since you left?
I have been back in Cuba 3 times since I left. The last time was about a year ago, I think. And it's just, I go there to see my family, but everything is going so bad that, I mean, Cuba is the worst place to go in terms of, let's say, going to relax for a weekend or a week or something like that, because you don't really relax. When you see all your friends and family just struggling with the system and everything that is going on, you don't really relax. I actually get very stressed when I go up there and I see everything that is going on. So many smart people that have no opportunity to do anything, and it's just really sad.
And you were saying you got a lot of your family you're going to be bringing into Nicaragua. Is there any issues leaving Cuba? I mean, do they have to go through a lot of process to leave?
It depends. There are certain countries that they're giving visa. So you just go present your paperwork and you can get a visa easily. And then, when they go to Nicaragua, they create a corporation, a partnership, and as an investors, they can actually get a Nicaraguan residence for 5 years. So it's only a few countries, like Nicaragua, I think Venezuela. There's only a few countries. It all depends on the countries itself. Most of them will ask for a certain permit or visa to be able to travel to Cuba, to outside of Cuba.
I don't. Okay. Well, it's good that you can get them with you and, get them employed and doing stuff that is productive, and they feel like they're being productive and part of something. So that's a really good thing.
It is.
So, all right. So we're going to call the show now. You're driving. You got to get to where you got to go. So it's been a pleasure as always. I miss being in NFG. Would love to have seen you again. But when this shit's all over with, I'll be making some trips down there. I know my friends from Providencia want me to come down and hang out. So we're looking forward to getting back down to Texas and saying hi to the folks and doing things. So thank you. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Noel, it's always great. Enjoy, my friend.
Thanks to you, man. You have a wonderful day, and you guys take care out there. Be safe.
Absolutely. Thank you.